Hello everyone, my name is Greg Soetomo of the Society of Jesus. I am from Indonesia and joined the Society of Jesus in 1989. Prior to completing my doctorate in Islamic Studies at Jakarta's Islamic State University in 2017, I was for 12 years the chief editor of Hidup. It is an Indonesian weekly Catholic magazine. I have focused my research on Islam, Christianity, interreligious studies, and Christianity in the ASEAN socio-cultural context, and is engaged in Muslim-Christians dialogue as the Jesuit Conference of Asia Pacific's coordinator for dialogue with Islam, as well as the editor of Pacific Mission Studies Journal. Building pastoral capacity in the post-pandemic era alongside of Fratelli Tutti and human fraternity. The Pope's calls, only a few weeks after the COVID pandemic turned a global phenomenon, 1 week after Easter 2020, which happened to be a feast of divine mercy, had astonished not only the Christians, but non-Christians alike. He said, "To everyone, let us not think only of our interests, our vested interests. Let us welcome this time of trial as an opportunity to prepare ourselves, our collective future, a future for all without discarding anyone." The Pope had earnestly conveyed his pastoral and moral calls to face the onslaught of this pandemic. So in the midst of this helplessness, he also invited all to think and imagine about the future. What future does the Church aspire to? Not the future for the few, of course. Not the future for those who have been socio-economically prepared for facing crisis in the post-pandemic era. Rather, it is the future for all. Even the Pope has stressed that no one should be left out in facing the future, because without an all-embracing vision, there will be no future for anyone. In a worldwide perspective, throughout his newest 2020 encyclical letter, Fratelli Tutti, on the fraternity and social friendship, he criticizes the failures of global cooperation in response to the pandemic. Fratelli Tutti seems to be a retelling and has a corresponding concern with the document written a year earlier, Human Fraternity for World Peace and Living Together. This document was signed by Pope Francis and the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Ahmad At-Toyib, in Abu Dhabi, February 4th, 2019. At least, Pope Francis has put 11 numbers of his encyclical by taking human fraternity as direct references. Just for example, in Fratelli Tutti number 5, he writes, "Issues of human fraternity and social friendship have always been a concern of mine. I have felt particularly encouraged by the Grand Imam Ahmad At-Toyib, with whom I met in Abu Dhabi, where we declare that God has created all human beings equal in rights, duties, and dignity, and has called them to live together as brothers and sisters." The present encyclical Fratelli Tutti takes up and develops some of the great themes raised in the document that they, Pope and the Grand Imam, both signed. Human fraternity primarily plays a role as a basis for interreligious and intercultural dialogue. However, this document has turned out to even address the challenges of entirely human life. These two documents, Fratelli Tutti and Human Fraternity, have many similarities in nature and spirit. Dear brothers, now I would like, brothers and sisters, I would like now to give some pastoral insights and guides to anticipate the long period of time impact of the COVID-19 pandemic based on the Fratelli Tutti and Human Fraternity by addressing these three questions. The first question, where has the world been and is? The second, what are the desired transformations that we wish to happen? The third, desired understanding and competency. What should they be able to understand? What should they be able to do? Where has the world been and is? Pope Francis writes in number 1, Fratelli Tutti number 1, as I was writing this letter, the COVID pandemic unexpectedly erupted. Aside from the different ways that various countries responded to the crisis, their inability to work together become quite evident. We witness a fragmentation. And also, number 29, Fratelli Tutti, with the Grand Imam Ahmad At-Toyib, we did not ignore the positive advances made in the areas of science, technology, medicine, industry, and welfare, above all in developed countries. We see the outbreaks of tensions and a build-up of arms and ammunition in global context dominated by uncertainty, disillusionment, fear of the future, and control by narrow economic interests. We can also point to major political crises, situations of injustice, and the lack of an equitable distribution of natural resources. Dear friends, Pope Francis also sees terrorism as very much present. Just for example, in Fratelli Tutti number 283 and 275, he refers to human fraternity. It is an incorrect interpretation of religious texts and to policies linked to hunger, poverty, injustice, oppressions, and pride. That's why terrorism is so necessary to stop. Supporting terrorist movement fueled by financing the provisions of weapons and strategy, and by attempt to justify this movement even using the media. Such terrorism must be condemned in all its form and expressions. In number 275, it should be acknowledged that among the most important causes of the crisis of the modern world are insensitive with human conscience, a distancing from religious values, and the individualism accompanied by materialistic philosophies. The second question, what are the desired transformations that we wish to happen? Let us see Fratelli Tutti number 3 and 4. There is an episode in the life of Saint Francis of Assisi that shows his openness of his heart. It was his visit to Sultan Malik el-Kamil. The journey undertaken at the time of the Crusades, unconcerned for the hardship and dangers involved, Francis of Assisi went and to meet the Sultan. In the context of the times, there was an extraordinary recommendation, of course. We are impressed that some 800 years ago, Saint Francis urged that all forms of hostility or conflict can be avoided, and that a humble and fraternal subjection be shown to those who did not share his faith. Francis of Assisi did not wage a war of words aimed at imposing doctrines. He simply spread the love of God. He understood that God is love, and those who abide in love abide in God. 1 John chapter 4, verse 16. Referring to human fraternity, Pope Francis writes in 285 and 192. In his fraternal meeting with the Grand Imam Ahmad At-Toyib, Pope Francis recalls, "We resolutely declare that religions must never incite war, hateful attitudes, hostility, and extremism, nor must they incite violence or the shedding of blood. These tragic realities are the consequence of a deviation from religious teachings. They result from a political manipulation of religions and from interpretation made by religious groups who, in the course of history, have taken advantage of the power of religious sentiment in the hearts of men and women." In this regard, number 192, Grand Imam Ahmad At-Toyib and I have called upon the architects of international policy and world economy to work strenuously to spread the cultures of tolerance and of living together in peace, to intervene at the earliest opportunity to stop the shedding of innocent blood. Question number 3, desire, understanding, and competency. What should we be able to understand, and what should we be able to do? Desire, understanding, we can refer Fratelli Tutti number 274. From our faith experience and from the wisdom accumulated over centuries, but also from lessons learned from our many weaknesses and failures, we, the believers of the different religions, know that our witness to God benefits our societies. The effort to seek God with a sincere heart, provided it is never sullied by ideological or self-serving aims, help us to recognize one another as traveling companions, truly brothers and sisters. The desired competency, we may refer Fratelli Tutti number 231. Negotiation often become necessary for shaping concrete path to peace. Great changes are not produced behind desks or in offices. This means that everyone has a fundamental role to play in a single great creative project, to write a new page of history, a page full of hope, peace, and reconciliation. Thank you so much.